new round of settlement talks just kicked off between Ripple and the SEC, and we have a brand new amendment, DID, that just launched on the XRP Ledger. In this video, I want to talk about both these things. I want to talk about exactly why DID is so important to institutional adoption. As Ripple has stated, this is one of the building blocks to getting institutions in DeFi and using these blockchain systems. In this video, I want to talk about exactly why this is such a big deal, so make sure to stick around for this whole thing. Like always, your support means so much to this channel. Thank you to everyone who takes the time to like these videos and subscribe to the channel. These two simple things really do mean so much. Also, if you ever need a good place to buy some XRP, make sure to check out my favorite exchange, Uphold, down in the description of this video. With that said, let's jump right into it, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. So I want to start this video off and quickly address the settlement news, because this is pretty interesting, but I think a lot of people are taking it out of context. So the Second Circuit actually just issued something that stated, hey Ripple, hey SEC, get together, try to settle this case before we have to deal with it. Now, a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, this means there's going to be a settlement. They have to settle before November 4th. I highly doubt that's going to happen. At the end of the day, we still have the same administration in power. I don't think Gary Gensler has changed his attitude at all towards cryptocurrency. And because of that, I highly doubt Gary Gensler is going to be settling this case. Now, with that said, I actually do think this settlement discussion is interesting, because I think the SEC should settle this case. They just got a lot of leverage by essentially taking this to the Second Circuit. Ripple wants this case over, and Ripple would likely be willing to spend a lot of money to get this case over. So I think it's very interesting that these settlement discussions are being rehashed, because I think a settlement would make a ton of sense now that the SEC has the leverage to essentially just milk more money out of Ripple. All they had to do was file a couple of papers, and they could probably get another $100,000 out of Ripple. Now, I don't think it's about money for the SEC, though. I think they are dragging Ripple through the ringer to slow down cryptocurrency, and they're not going to settle this case so long as Gary Gensler is at the agency. With that said, though, I think it's highly likely that if we do have a change in the administration, or even if we just have Gary Gensler removed from the SEC when Kamala Harris wins, or Trump wins and he removes her, regardless of who wins, I think there's a high chance Gary Gensler is gone. And I think in that instance, the chance of a settlement actually drastically increases. We already heard Trump say that he will fire Gary Gensler, and we've heard a lot of Kamala Harris's big donors. She is going to look to remove Gary Gensler and replace him. So I think these are definitely interesting conversations. Like I said, I'm not saying this to try to take a side on this issue. I clearly think Trump would be much better for cryptocurrency. But with that said, it's nice knowing that either way, it looks like there is a good probability Gary Gensler will be gone. And if there is going to be a settlement, it will likely happen after this November 4th date, after we get a new administration in charge. Now, with that said, I want to move on to something else that I find extremely interesting, and that is DID going live on the XRP Ledger. This is something I am extremely excited for. It's not getting a lot of news, but it is absolutely critical to institutional adoption of these cryptocurrency networks. One of the biggest reasons why DID and credential verification is critical is because essentially regulated institutions need to be able to verify customers. They need to be able to verify who they're interacting with. It's simply an issue that, for a compliance reason, cannot be avoided. Now, with that said, us on a retail level, right, we don't really care that much. We can interact with all these different people, and we just don't have the scrutiny that a lot of these businesses have on them. But a lot of these businesses absolutely require that they can prove they know their customer has passed the appropriate accreditations. Things like this is not a sanctioned entity. Things like this is an accredited investor. Things like this is a qualified participant. Things like, hey, this is a US customer. All of these things are going to be very important to institutions actually interacting with retail and other institutions in these blockchain systems. And these things are non-negotiable. So for a while, these have been some of the things really holding back institutions from adopting these networks. These institutions know the efficiency increases we would get from adopting a blockchain system. But if it is going to cause a regulator to sue them, fine them, and destroy their business, that's just not something they're going to be willing to compromise on. But what we have coming to the XRP Ledger, and I guess what we have on the XRP Ledger now, because this just launched, is DID. And what DID will allow us to do is assign credentials to a specific institution or a specific wallet address. So an institution can claim a group or a single wallet address on the XRP ledger. They can have their credentials verified on that wallet. That credential can give it a tag saying accredited investor, qualified participant, business, C Corp, anything you can think of, apply it to that wallet address. Therefore, every single time that wallet address goes to interact with a regulated system, say a regulated DeFi product, we can be certain that that wallet has passed the appropriate accreditation standards. Now, this is completely different from what the rest of the cryptocurrency industry is working on. The rest of the cryptocurrency industry wants everything to be anonymous and they want to skirt regulations. It is two completely different approaches. And while some people watching this might say, oh, I hate this new standard, I hate that they are doing this, it's important to realize one thing. The XRP ledger is always going to be permissionless, and you can always use XRP without the DID. The DID is being added so if an institution wants to spin up a DeFi system, they can make sure they're not taking money for terrorists. So it's optional. But to have this optionality, I believe, is absolutely fundamental to where the XRP ledger is going. Ripple understands that the financial system is a heavily regulated sector, and that's the case all around the world. Blockchain systems are going to be the new foundation, the new plumbing for the financial system. And to think that these regulations, to think that these KYC and compliance checks are going to go away is absolutely insane. And instead, institutions just won't adopt the systems that are not regulatory compliant. So what the XRP ledger is doing is building in the optionality to have these compliant checks along the way. Therefore, when an institution wants to adopt this technology, they can say, hey, how do we make sure this is the case with the people we're interacting with? How do we make sure that this entity isn't sanctioned? How do we know that this entity has passed KYB, passed KYC? That is what DID is going to allow so that when these institutions want to adopt these technologies, they can from a regulatory compliance standpoint. This is so important to institutional adoption, and I believe a foundational building block to where this industry is going. And like I said, this is completely different than what the rest of the industry is focused on. A lot of the rest of the industry is simply focused on things, in my opinion, that are more retail based. I think this is a great example of why this is so important in terms of institutional adoption. Most of these other blockchains would essentially never do something like this. But the fact that the XRP ledger is adding a standard like this differentiates it from a lot of the other systems out there. And I believe this differentiation is going to make the XRP ledger the hub for institutional DeFi. When you combine this with the fact that the XRP ledger is looking to have the most institutionally compliant stablecoin out there, RLUSD, what you are building is an ecosystem that institutions can adopt. It's no longer a question of if these institutions want to adopt this technology, and I want to prove that to you right here. Earlier today, the Treasury actually issued a notice where they specifically stated that atomic settlement is streamlined and a lot easier with tokenized treasuries. So the United States Treasury is literally saying that tokenization of assets is real, it's here, and it's massively beneficial. But they can't tokenize assets in a system where essentially sanctioned entities are going to be able to run free. They need compliance, they need standards, they need accreditations, they need credentials. And this is what DID is adding to the system, taking the wild west of what is currently going on in these blockchain systems and saying, okay, well, there can still be the Wild West, but if you're going to interact with some of these entities that require you to have these accreditations, we are going to make sure that is possible. It's all about building what businesses need. We talked about this when clawbacks launched on the XRP ledger. It wasn't that every single token was going to automatically have clawbacks. It wasn't that every single token needed to have clawbacks. But if Bank of America wanted an issue a Bank of America token on the XRP ledger, but then say I started using Bank of America coin to take that Bank of America coin and start funding terrorism in the Middle East, well, they need to claw that money back, and there's no real way you could tell a regulator, hey, sorry, that money's there, there's nothing we can do about it. The same is going to be true for DID. No longer will Bank of America have to worry about if they build a DeFi loan platform, someone coming in and getting access to one of these loans if they're not qualified to do so. In my opinion, this was one of the biggest barriers to institutional adoption, and this is getting torn down as we speak. I think it is so bullish and important that Ripple is focusing on these things, because the rest of the cryptocurrency industry is simply ignoring them and not if saying, hey, we will never adopt these things because it's not the ethos of crypto. This is what differentiates the XRP ledger from every other chain out there. It's compliance first. They are building standards that are going to be absolutely fundamental in the next generation financial system we're heading into. It's not just about better technology. It's not just about better tech. It's about building systems that institutions can adopt in a way that's not going to put them under the scrutiny of regulators. These institutions are only going to adopt systems that they can use in a way where it's not going to cause regulators to shut down their business. And making blockchains compatible with that goal is absolutely fundamental to the mass institutional adoption we're all waiting for. Guys, I believe this is a massive step in the right direction, and to me confirms that Ripple is always on the right track when it comes to this stuff. They're always building in the right direction, and they continue to differentiate the XRP ledger from every other chain out there. Guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you enjoyed this update, and for now, Mickle out.